tricky. It's getting tricky. Dang it.
All right. First of all, I'd like to thank everybody who made it out here and braved the traffic on the highways in San Antonio to get here on time. We're going to start out a little bit slow, give people a chance who are still out there, give them a chance to trickle in little by little. The reason that we're holding this forum is that there's a lot of issues regarding the state of education here in Texas, right? Our elected officials, the senators and representatives, meet every 2 years in order to try to pass bills that they want to see become a law. And they do this through our empowerment. We vote them into office. We trust them to have our intentions at heart when they start doing these things. Right now, the 83rd legislative session is in session, and they'll be in session until May 27th. That's when the session ends. So there's a certain amount of urgency that we place behind the things that we're going to be discussing this evening. Reason being is because the session is about to come to an end. A lot of times these bills come to light and we don't know about them. And we've been able to catch these before they become actual bills or before they become laws, and we can't do anything about it until the next session. So we kind of caught this process while it's still in its infancy phases, and there's I'm not going to say small group, but there's a group of activists that are kind of leading the fight in this. And some of them are on stage right now, and you'll be hearing from them in a little while. These bills that are suggested seek to limit the choices that your sons and daughters or you may have as you navigate your educational path. And they start in middle school, they bridge over into high school, and it trickles over into the college arena. I'm going to go over the bills real quick. One of them is going to be House Bill 5. It's relating to public school accountability, including assessment and curriculum requirements. House Bill 25, it's relating to the Texas Higher Education Coordinating Board's student success-based funding recommendations for certain public institutions of higher education. House Bill 30, relating to measures to facilitate the transfer of students within the public higher education system and the timely graduation of students from public institutions of higher education. House Bill 132, is related to establishing a pilot program in designated public high schools in certain municipalities for placement of students in Junior Reserve Officers Training Corps program as an alternative to placement in disciplinary or juvenile justice alternative education programs. In other words, putting them in JRTC rather than sending them to an alternative school. House Bill 1142 is relating to the public school elective course on firearm safety, training, and history. House Bill 1938 is going to be relating to curriculum requirements in American and Texas history at institutions of higher education. As a side note, as these bills become authored by these senators and representatives, if they don't place a date that they want to see these bills go into action, for example, one of the ones we've been fighting, they propose that if it passes, it goes into effect by September 1st of the next academic year, so that will be almost immediately. They have until August the 26th, which is a Monday this year, to put that on their bill. If not, on August 26th, it automatically becomes law at that time. Our panelists are going to be going through the bills, describing how they can affect your child's future in education or you, explain why it's important. We all have a voice in this matter, and tie it all together to the future of our kids as adults. And at the end of the discussion, we'll be happy to answer any questions about anything we discussed, or any other questions you may have regarding the process of these bills if you're still in the gray area about it. I'm going to start by introducing our panelists up here. First is Dr. June Pedraza. She's right here. Dr. Pedraza is an assistant professor at Northwest Vista College. She received her PhD in U.S. Latino Studies at the University of Texas at San Antonio. She works for the Department of English as well as with the Northwest Vista Mexican American Studies program. Her research is in mixed race Chicana identity politics with contemporary America. Her work has been published, Her work has been published by Pecan Grove Press, Wings Press, and the Sagebrush Review. In addition to teaching, Dr. Pedraza is also a community activist in San Antonio. She works with community organizations such as Somos Mas, the National Association of Chicana and Chicano Scholars, Deshotel, the Esperanza Peace and Justice Center, as well as MOPS. Currently, she's working on her book, Third Space Mestizaje, A Critical Approach to Literature, with Callegari Press. Sonia Rosa Hernandez, in addition to being a full-time student, she's also the Mexican American Studies Student Organization President and an activist. Sonia is the Case Development Manager at Hurd & Smith Law Firm, where she develops Social Security and disability cases. Also, as a co-owner and operator of Red Lotus Creative, she focuses on projects that empower those who are marginalized in today's society. Sonia has traveled all over the world, decolonizing what she's been taught knowledge and power is, in search of higher enlightenment. She believes that those with wisdom and or formal education have an obligation to share it with others in order to forge a stronger society. As a survivor of institutional violence and racism, Sonia is a non-traditional student determined to create a safe space for anyone trying to reach their highest potential regardless of race, class, or gender. Sonia was one of the 20 Libro Traficantes who traveled to the Capitol in Austin less than a week after Senate Bill 1128 and testified against House Bill 1938. Next is Timothy Garcia Giddens. Timothy is from Laredo. We're going to call him Tim. Tim is from Laredo. He was born and raised in Laredo. He's a product of the Laredo Independent School District's gifted and talented and AP courses programs. Graduating from J.W. Nixon High School, he then attended Laredo Community College and graduated with honors before moving to San Antonio and transferring to UTSA. Timothy also is a non-traditional student, having worked full-time and part-time in the past and taking longer than the ideal four-year path. He is graduating in May 2013 with dual bachelor's degrees in Mexican American Studies and Political Science. Further, Tim is a Chicano activist and citizen with an authentic interest in real democracy. Politically, he's a progressive and believes in humanity and human equality, sexual orientation, gender and race, and in the worker. Tim fights for those without a voice and in the community. He's been active in progressive social justice politics with the Occupy movement and related movements and actions. In the fall of 2012, he ran for Texas House of Representatives District 125 as a Green Party candidate. At UTSA, Timothy is active with the Mexican American Studies program, the Mexican American Studies Student Organization, and Students United for Socioeconomic Justice. The most important issues to him are immigration and poverty, education and student debt, sexual equality, gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender, and queer rights, healthcare, socio-ecology, environmental justice, racial justice, and full employment. The pursuit of happiness is the American dream, and access to education and equalizing educational arenas is the key to pursuit and success, to this pursuit and success. His future work lies in addressing these issues through activist social transformation via the legal path as a lawyer or academic path as a scholar activist. Last but not least, we have Teresita Aguilar. Dr. Aguilar is currently the director of the Center for Mexican American Studies and Research and tenured professor of education at Our Lady of the Lake University. Her bachelor's degree is from the University of Mary Hardin Baylor University, and both graduate degrees were granted by the University of North Texas. She holds a master's in therapeutic recreation, and her doctorate is in higher education with an emphasis in college teaching. After teaching for 6 years in the field of therapeutic recreation at the University of Nebraska-Lincoln and Arizona State University, Dr. Aguilar was invited to return to UNL to coordinate the multicultural education program in the Department of Curriculum and Instruction, and did so for 9 years. She was the first person of color to attain promotion of full professor in the 97-year history of teachers college at UNL. She also held courtesy rank in UNL's Latino and Latin American Studies program. In 1999, she received the UNL Chancellor's Commission on the Status of People of Color Award and recognition for her contributions to improve the campus environment for people of color. Her first administrative post was Associate Dean in the College of Education and Integrated Studies at Cal Poly Pomona in 2000. She has also served as the Dean of Graduate Studies at the University of New Mexico in Albuquerque and the Dean of the School of Professional Studies and the Gordon School of Social Service at Our Lady of the Lake University. In her role as Dean at 3 very distinctive institutions of higher education, Dr. Aguilar maintained a commitment to student-centered decision-making, faculty advocacy, attention to mission, and promotion of cultural competency and development. From creating an international cultural immersion experience for staff, developed to supporting the development of the graduate peer mentoring program, the recognition of the need to transform institutions of higher education and the people within has remained a critical part of her vision for a new American higher education experience. She accepted her new position to provide campus leadership to more directly and intentionally address the Our Lady of the Lake University vision statement. Our Lady of the Lake inspires to be nationally recognized for our expertise in Mexican American culture. She strongly believes that this can only happen with the transformation of the institution and the people within it. On that note, please help me in welcoming Dr. Pedraza.
Okay. I want to thank you all for coming tonight because I know the traffic was really horrible out there. And the other thing I want to thank you all for coming too, because I think that it's really important that we start talking openly and honestly about San Antonio's education system in particular, as well as the Texas education system. And I think that for all of us, we kind of got started in this with Senate Bill 1128, and then House Bill 1938. And so as we started to look at these different bills, I started uncovering a lot of bills within the public education, K through 12, and within higher education, which is, of course, four-year institutions, community colleges, and technical schools. And what I saw really were bills that I don't think they were necessarily meaning to, but they are targeting minority students. And so I think we have to be consciously aware that this is happening. And it's a lot of work to sit down and read through bills, but I think the only way that we can do that is to look at the bills and say how is this going to affect our community and our students, and then actually go and testify for or against the bills that we want. And the other thing was I was in meetings this year in my department in English, talking about integrated reading and writing and closing off the open enrollment and getting rid of reading altogether and the funding, and I just thought, when is enough enough? Right? How many times are we going to sit there and say, okay, let's do it, when we know that it's doing a disservice? And so these are the bills that I found problematic when I was going through all of this. I'll start with the public ed bills, K through 12. The other thing I want you all to know is, as taxpayers, this is your money, so your education system. And as parents and students, this is also your education system. And I think outside of teachers and administrators and what have you, I think students have the biggest voice in this arena right now because it's your education. And so I think parents and students need to get involved, and I think that's why we did this. So I'll start with K through 12. There's just 3 bills that I want to talk about in here. And there's a lot of good bills too. So if you want to talk to me about bills and legislation for the 83rd legislature, you can. But the first bill that I want to talk about is House Bill 132. And this is relating to establishing a pilot program that will be designed in high schools. And it will take the students that are supposed to go into alternative education programs or the alternative high school can go into a JROTC program. And I find this a little bit problematic because I want to make sure, well, the other thing I read was that ROTCs are funded by prisons, along with some charter schools. So there's that whole prison to pipeline education system. But I also want to make sure that we're not doing like a militarization of underprivileged school districts. So I think that we can all agree with this bill that yes, there are students that lack discipline and we should supply it. But I'm not sure if we need to put them into a training program that promotes war. And so it's also important to note, as I was looking through this bill, that a lot of the school-based routes for children of privileged districts have art educations, after-school sports, dance, music, and alternative programs that they can go in. Whereas the underprivileged school districts, in San Antonio, that would probably be South San, Harlandale, San Antonio, and Edgewood, they don't have these programs. And so these will be the areas that the JROTC will be going into as alternatives. So I think that we have to stop and say, okay, is this ROTC program really targeting underrepresented and underprivileged school districts? So we want to look at how many of the JROTC programs are in this community, at which schools, where's the pipeline. We also have to make sure well, we have to look at the cost, and I think in one school district, in order to do this implementation, it would cost $12 million for 1 year. We also want to find out if students want to be in this class or are they involuntarily placed in a class. Propose or coordinate other programs that would teach discipline leadership. We also want to look at communities on the waiting list for JROTC programs and what where their funding is coming from. And we also want to look at if JROTC has these like rifle firing ranges that are which at the same time are in violation of the zero weapons tolerance that many schools have. So there's that whole contradiction as well. And so I think if you are against this type of bill, I think you should, and I also think if we are against these bills, we have to not just say we're against them, right? We don't like them. We have to give solutions to the problem. So the solution would be, instead of saying, okay, instead of we want our JROTC, is we'd like maybe National Hispanic Institutes to help create debate teams or art education programs or after-school alternatives to the JROTC route. The other bill that a lot of you are dealing with now, because it was passed, and this is the largest bill, it's House Bill 5. Have you all heard of House Bill 5 in K through 12? No? Are y'all K through 12 teachers? You're doing the STAR exam right now? Yes. Okay. So this bill started really with accountability, assessment, curriculum. It started at 30-something pages. So then as I kept reading, it became 43, and now it's at 130. So what they did with this bill is they said, okay, we're going to look at the way we assess our curriculum and the schools, right? They can do a school rating now for either A, B, C, or D school or F school. So they have this new rating, so that's like 10 pages of the bill. Then they look at curriculum requirements. What should be in the core for high schools? What classes are important? And so they looked at that. They also looked at how many students they need to graduate in order to have funding coming in. And the final thing is they want, well, this bill states, and it already passed, that the end of course tests used to count for 15% of their final grade in high schools and in 11th and 12th grade. But now it states that the end of course test will count for 100% of the student's final grade in grade 12. So if you don't pass the tax test, you can't go into STAR. I'm sorry, I was taxed. But tax will come back for my little thing. So it's a STAR exam. The other thing is, okay, so you have the 100% of students' final grades will be because of the test. And in addition, they're also acknowledging the fact that there's a lot of truancy and dropout rates of people not going to where they need to go. And in particular, if you read the bill, the language is 60% are Hispanic students. And the target is the Hispanic students and the ESL students. Because the ESL students are not making a grade, that's also part of another discussion on ESL and bilingual education. So HB 5 seeks to transform, along with the testing, the current structure by creating the single diploma, or they can add they've already added the vocational tracking. So what that means is in 11th grade, you take the STAR exam. The administrators of your school will look at your grades, and if they think that you are not college ready, they will ask you to do an alternative program that they have been funded for by an outside institution like Toyota, or I can't think of any science. Yeah, so any biotech institute company. So it says, students who complete grade 11 but are unlikely to pass the required exams will enroll in a corresponding content area college preparatory class. The proponents also say that this is a great idea because it will help the Texas economy grow by providing needed skilled workers to work in the energy industry or other sectors of high-paying jobs that do not require a college education. In addition, they also say this will help community colleges partner with workforce area needs and funding. The problem is this. I think technical or vocational tracks are really good for some people. I just have a problem when you don't give the students an option. And so I feel that this could lead to racial profiling of students. And minority students would be steered disproportionately into career options away from college tracks. And this could have a long-term impact for these students, for the and for the state, because minority students constitute the majority of the state's public schools. So what happens is, okay, they're not going to colleges, they're going into vocational tracks. Usually people who are minimum wage or not in the upper or middle class don't vote. And so if they don't vote, there's this whole idea of people stay in power, right? So I think we really have to be consciously aware of this bill. It has passed, and so I think that what you have to do, it's going to come back again in the 84th legislature. And I think this year, when you look at your STAR exams, right, I think they're going to give 5 this year instead of 15. If you look at how your students are doing, or your children, and they're not doing well, and I doubt the numbers are going to change, I think next year you're going to have to go and ask for, to revisit SB 5. My solution would be this. I think we should do away with end-of-year curriculum exams. Rely on the national tests, which I don't know, at SATs or ACTs, right? And if you've been gone and you're a non-traditional student, you come back in and you do your college-level entrance exam, which is not by Pearson, but that's another argument. Because we've seen the students over the past decade, right, between TAKS and TAS and STAR, there has been no improvement on a national level that these exams have actually helped the students in any way. So that's SB 5. 1142. Now, this doesn't seem that big of a deal, but for me it was. It says, what they want to do with 1142, relating to the public school elective course. It said, this is a course that can be offered to 9th grade or above as an elective course. It could also be a history course, and the bill will allow teachers to teach history in accordance with the Second Amendment in the United States and teach respect and proper use of firearms. The purpose of the course, would be to emphasize the importance of the Second Amendment and the instruction of the Second Amendment, how it fits into the Constitution. It will also have instruction on proper firearm safety, training, in the use of firearms, including the safe use of